House Baratheon are a great house of Westeros, who have become both feared and renowned throughout Westeros, and have even rose up to become kings of the Iron Throne in the War of Conquest we know as Robert's Rebellion. Ours is the fury, their house words, but they weren't actually theirs, were they? No. So who are the Baratheon lords of old, and what are they doing now? This is the entire history of House Baratheon explained. The house was created during Aegon's conquest of the Stormlands by Lord Orys, the rumoured half-brother of Aegon the Conqueror. Orys gathered Aegon's host against the Storm King Argilac Durrandon alongside Queen Rhaenys Targaryen with her dragon Meraxes, and marched on the Stormlands. You see, before House Baratheon were House Durrandon, who kept the same house words, seat and sigil as the Baratheons do now. Those words being, ours is the fury, with their sigil of a black stag on a field of gold from their seat of Storm's End. And so, in what became known as the Last Storm, King Argilac with his Stormlander army marched against the Targaryen host. Argilac managed to break through Orys' centre during his third charge, to be met with Queen Rhaenys and Meraxes, which as you can imagine, ended with dragonfire. Argilac survived this roasting however, and so Argilac and Orys fought in single combat. When the Storm King was slain, his army threw down their swords and fled. Argilac's daughter, Argella Durrandon, barred the gates of Storm's End and declared herself Storm Queen, hoping to hold out in a siege. However, soon Argella's own soldiers delivered her directly to Orys' camp, where he married her and took the Durrandon's house for his own with a new name, House Baratheon. He took control of Storm's End, and Aegon named him First Lord Paramount of the Stormlands. Orys served as Lord of the Stormland until his death from wounds he received from a battle during the Second Dornish War under the reign of King Aenys I. Next up on the list of notable Baratheon lords is Lord Rogar Baratheon, the grandson of Lord Orys. He was the Lord of Storm's End during the reigns of Maegor I and Jaehaerys I, serving as Hand of the King and Protector of the Realm during Jaehaerys' childhood. He was married to his king's mother, Lady Alyssa Velaryon, having 2 children with her, Boremund and Jocelyn. Jocelyn would marry Prince Aemon Targaryen and have a daughter, Rhaenys Targaryen, the same one we see in House of the Dragon. Boremund would go on to succeed his father as Lord Paramount of the Stormlands, who supported the Blacks before the Dance of the Dragons because of his ties with Rhaenys. However, Borros, his son, who was Lord during the dance, supported the Greens instead, despite his father, because of a betrothal between one of Borros' 4 daughters and Aemon Targaryen, ever so holy and one-eyed. Lord Borros marched his army towards the end of the war, and seized King's Landing for Aegon II during the Moon of the Three Kings, an event I'll be covering in a future video. Borros then marched his army against an approaching Riverlander army and fought in the Battle of the King's Road, where he was killed by a young Lord Kermit Tully. And no, I'm not kidding, his name really was Kermit. What a muppet George is. See what I did there? Next up on the notable Baratheon lords list is Lord Lyonel Baratheon, otherwise known as the Laughing Storm, who in 209 AC fought in the tourney of Ashford and later aided Sir Duncan the Tall in his trial by 7 against a Prince Aerion Targaryen, which of course Duncan's side won. Years later, Lord Lyonel had betrothed his daughter to Prince Duncan Targaryen, but when Duncan broke the betrothal and renounced his claims to the throne by marrying Jenny of Oldstones, Lyonel grew furious and declared independent from the Iron Throne and named himself the new Storm King. His rebellion was both bloody and short-lived, when Sir Duncan the Tall, yes, the same one from earlier, defeated him in single combat. King Aegon instead promised that his youngest daughter, Princess Rhaelle Targaryen, would marry Lyonel's eldest son and heir, Ormond Baratheon. Rhaelle was sent to Storm's End and the two were married, having a son within a year named Steffon. As a side note, Steffon is Robert, Stannis and Renly's father, making Princess Rhaelle Targaryen their grandmother, which is how they share close descent with the Targaryens. In his youth, Steffon served at court in King's Landing, where he became close friends with his cousin, Prince Orys, who he later would know and love as the Mad King. They fought together in the War of the Ninepenny Kings, where Steffon's father, Ormond, died in his arms, slain by Maelys Blackfire, making Steffon the new Lord of Storm's End. Lord Steffon had 3 children with his wife, Lady Cassana Estamont, a member of House Estamont, a fairly prominent family in the Stormlands. These children, of course, are the ever-so-lovely Robert, Stannis and Renly. The eldest son, Robert, was fostered by Jon Arryn in the Vale alongside Eddard Stark. After the Defiance of Duskendale, which you can learn more about here, King Aerys II sent Lord Steffon to the free city of Volantis to find a bride of Valyrian descent for Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. He failed, however, and sadly, On their boat journey back, a terrible storm struck, and they sunk beneath the waves of Shipbreaker Bay, killing both Lord Steffon and his lady wife. This of course meant that Robert, in all his might, inherited Storm's End along with all of its titles, and was later betrothed to Lyanna Stark, the She-Wolf. When Prince Rhaegar Targaryen allegedly kidnapped Lyanna, her brother Brandon rode to King's Landing seeking justice, where he was arrested and executed alongside Lord Rickard Stark of the North, Ned Stark's father. When the Mad King Aerys later demanded that Jon Arryn sent him Lord Robert and Ned Stark to be executed, he refused, and the three thus started what would later be known as Robert's Rebellion. And quite obviously, they won, and Robert placed a crown upon his head as the new Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm. And here, as we reach the start of the Baratheon dynasty, are three branches of House Baratheon. House Baratheon of Storm's End are the main branch of the Baratheons who rule over the kingdom of the Stormlands, from their seat of Storm's End. The Lord of Storm's End and Master of Laws to King Robert Baratheon at the start of the books is the handsome and clean-shaven Renly Baratheon, who, as we know, is the youngest son of Lord Steffon Baratheon, although I highly doubt his line will continue because you know the whole shadow baby thing. House Baratheon of Dragonstone is the cadet branch of the Baratheons, created by the ever-stern and totally religious Stannis the Manus Baratheon himself. It was given to Stannis following the end of the Targaryen dynasty because he was Robert's heir, and traditionally for the Targaryens, the heir held the fortified castle of the dragons. Stannis of course took this as a slight, and I'm sure would have preferred Renly's seat. And finally is the main event, House Baratheon of King's Landing or the Iron Throne, the great superior power of the Seven Kingdoms as King of the Realm, created by the man himself, King Bobby B, after the death of King Aerys II by the ever-so-wonderful Jaime Lannister. At the start of the books, the Baratheons ultimately have the most power in the Seven Kingdoms, which in a short 649 pages, the length of a Game of Thrones, gets quickly undone. But that's a story for another day. If I did miss anything important, let me know, but for now, bye-bye.